Dr. Armen Hagopjanian, thank you for giving us your very precious time right now.
My pleasure.
I know you've been in Stepanakert performing surgeries. You're a podiatric surgeon. Can you talk me through the process of your decision-making? I know you grew up here in Yerevan, continued education and professional life in the United States. How did you arrive in Yerevan on your way to Stepanakert?
I don't think any Armenian who is born outside of this country or is born in this country has ever detached him or herself from Armenia. I come to Armenia every year for the past maybe 20 years. I come here with my kids, with my wife. The life here is the same as life there. We constantly communicate. When somebody starts a war, when somebody is being attacked, I think we're being attacked as a nation. It was very clear from the day one that this wasn't a 1 or 2 day war. It was very clear that the enemy, I'm calling them enemy right now, because they are expressing their feelings to completely destroy our nation, was preparing for this war for many, many years. And once you see that, you have to realize how many casualties there will be. I believe in professionalism. I believe that everybody should do what they do best. And what I do best, I do trauma and foot and ankle surgery. And where else should I be if not there, saving legs of our soldiers? The decision was very quick and almost instant.
So September 27th, 7 a.m. news hit of the war, and then what happened in your family in the hours?
September, it was actually Saturday night. We were celebrating my friend's 50th birthday, and we got the news right there. It didn't sink in until the morning, but once it was sinking really deep. We all had the sinking feeling in the heart, and that's where the decision was made.
And what about your family's reactions, concerns about safety or any of those?
My parents raised me well. My parents taught me that I have to love my family, I have to love my kids, I have to love my friends, and I have to love my country. So the decision was made, and they supported me, and I thank them for that.
Is there some kind of collaboration between local doctors, local surgeons? How does that work on the ground? So you show up?
No, it doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult process, and I do not want to get into a lot of details because then I'm going to get into the criticism of people who should have organized it better. And I do not want to criticize any one of us Armenians today, but I believe that it could have been organized much better, and we did not even go on the higher instances. We went through our friends. We knew who can do a very difficult job. It was a great team of surgeons from Moscow. 5 surgeons or 6 surgeons flew from Moscow, an absolute top specialist in their fields. I was collaborating with them. We agreed that they're going to fly first and they're going to tell me when I should arrive to Karabakh. The very next day they arrived to Karabakh, they said, you need to fly like right now. And just a matter of crossing the ocean and crossing the border to Artsakh.
Okay. Were you performing surgery on wounded soldiers or civilians as well?
Most of them were soldiers, obviously, but we got plenty of civilians as well.
And what was your state of mind? Stepanakert is being shelled. You're performing surgeries nonstop. It's not only physical injuries, there's also a psychological element.
The bombing, in my opinion, was really psychological. I don't think they were hitting some military targets. They were hitting 100-year-old houses. I mean, when the ceasefire was announced and we drove around the city and we saw what they bombed, I couldn't understand why. Why would they bomb, let's say, a 100-year-old house, and they knew that we're not going to keep all the kids and women in these houses. We moved them out really quick. They bombed a cross on the mountain. They bombed it. Well, the cross stood. We thought that it's going to be burned down because there was a huge smoke, but when the smoke disappeared, the cross used to be white, now it was black, but it was still standing. So it was very psychological. You could not sleep, you could not function. even now, most of us who came back from there, we cannot sleep for more than an hour at a time. So you get the post-traumatic stress disorder in 24 hours there.
There's been, I think, an unprecedented mobilization of the diaspora in the last 2 weeks. And you're returning in a couple of days. What do you take with you, and what will you tell to your family members, your friends back in the US?
Well, we had 100,000 or even more Armenians march through the streets of Los Angeles. I think it's not enough. What we do is not enough. We had a telemarathon for a whole day. We collected only $30 million. That's a 1 day of war for Azeris. They print money. Every bomb they drop on our heads is maybe $1 million bomb. Yeah, we're not going to go away. We're going to stand, and we're going to wait until this bomb will blow up every 100-year-old house, but then we're going to come up. At the same time, you need to rebuild. We need to do something to change the way we work. I mean, look at the Israel. Every little 18-year-old kid is serving in military, even though if they've never been born in Israel. They believe it's their duty to serve in Israeli military. We keep talking about that there's not many people left in this country. Well, we have one of the biggest diasporas. Why don't we all come here very often? I talk to many of my friends who've never been to Armenia and always asking them, how can you be so patriotic and you've never been to Armenia? You go to Syria, you go to Lebanon, you go to Russia, you go to, I don't know, Brazil, but you don't come to Armenia. Why? We do not need the pseudo-patriotism. We need to do something about it, okay?
I've heard the term diasporan paralysis being used in the last 2 weeks, diasporans who feel like they're helpless, and that's triggered a reaction, I think, in me and other people around, that it seems like we're a crisis nation. We only kind of unite and stand, perhaps not sufficiently so, when there's a crisis, instead of maybe taking preventative measures, or at least being prepared for crisis when it hits.
You know, we need professionals. I'm going to go back to the same story. I'm not a politician. I'm not going to talk about politics. But if we are surrounded by enemies, and you know these people hate us. These people keep talking about taking their lands back for 27 years. I think we need to have professionals getting ready for everything, whether it's in politics, in military, in medicine, in engineering. Why do we have so many drones over our heads? We don't have enough IT guys? I mean, most of the American companies are hiring Armenian IT guys to build their platforms. So how come we cannot build our own drones? Let's do this. Let's change something about it. We have a problem when non-professionals are trying to do something they're not supposed to do. That's the biggest issue. I'll give you an example. Anybody who lives in Los Angeles knows about the famous store. It used to be called Qarabağ, now it's Tigranakert. There is one very nice guy who sells meat for the past maybe 20 years. Every time I go there, he knows me, he knows what meat I like. And the very first time when I met him, we started talking to each other about what you did in Armenia, what you do here. And he said, hey, Armen, I used to be a singer. Now I sell meat. I said, it's better this way than the opposite. I hope you get where I'm going. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people who do what they are not supposed to be doing. Let's do something what you can do the best. Then we can build a nation. Then we can build a strong country, and we all have to contribute. One of the doctors, Armen Hagopjanian, and I was watching his speech from Stepanakert. He made the speech during the fundraiser of Armenian American Medical Society. He said that this is not the time when you can do a comfortable donation. It's not the time when you can just put your hand in your pocket, pull out $1,000 and say, okay, here we go, take it. No, he said that it needs to be an uncomfortable donation. You need to feel that. You need to feel like a tax. And we should all feel that. We should pay our taxes for our motherland if we want to keep it. If we do not want to turn into Assyrians, we need to pay taxes to Armenia one way or another. And then we cannot keep the country.
The day before my husband and I boarded the flight to come here, we gathered with a group of friends and discussed the idea of a diaspora tax instead of a fundraiser when crisis hits, a sort of continuity of investing in the homeland so that you can comfortably identify as Armenian when you choose to do so.
There's a difference between investing and the taxes, okay? When we talk about, oh, I came to Armenia to do business, great. But what if you didn't come to Armenia, didn't make a business? Every day we sit in front of the TV and we discuss big politics. Everybody says who should be the president, what should president do, when do we have to start the war with this, we should get here, we should get there, we should have friends in Ukraine or Georgia or Russia, and it's all talk. Well, let's put the money where our mouth is.
Well, I think, thank you for your example of walking the walk instead of talking to talk or talking the walk, which I think perhaps is an issue. But I hope the outcomes of this are going to be serious, whatever the political decisions are made. But maybe in terms of diaspora Armenian mobilization or diaspora Armenia relationships, maybe one thing we can hope for is that we've learned our lesson.
I hope we're going to learn our lessons. This is the time when it's unprecedented time for our nation. We all came together. If we don't get anything out of it, then we should not complain. We should not complain if we lose half of our land. If we don't change anything in what we do, in our daily lives, in our daily business, in the way we look at our country, at our motherland, then we're going to lose it. So we need to stay strong. My father used to compare Israel first 5 years and Armenia first 5 years. Well, in the first 5 years, every strong, good Armenian mind came to Israel to build it. First 5 years in Armenia, anybody who could make his life somewhere else, they left Armenia. So let's create conditions for people to come back. Let's create conditions for people to come here and have as comfortable life as they have in Los Angeles. You cannot have the pseudo-patriotic slogans, come back to Armenia and our kids will be raised like Armenians. No, we raise our kids like Armenians. Our kids go to Armenian schools, our kids go to churches, our kids learn the language, they write the language. So it's not that pseudo-patriotic slogan that's going to work.
So would you say you're making a call for, I guess, repatriation, but with the proper infrastructure here in Armenia to be able to meet those needs?
Absolutely.
Because I think often Armenia and diaspora are missing each other. They are calling for each other, longing for each other, but completely at different wavelengths. There is this symbolic identification from the diaspora's end and this longing to belong. And then there's this symbolic call for aid, for support, for repatriation, but often completely missing each other because the needs are not understood, so they're not met.
Not only that, the needs are not even offered. Nobody even think about why would somebody who makes $1 million a year in California or in New York is going to leave everything they have and come back to Armenia and live in a one-bedroom apartment and earn $500, for example. It's not going to work. You need to bring good, smart people in. Do we have money? I'm sure we do plenty. I'm sure we do plenty, because when you look into investments of Armenian businessmen all over the world, you realize they have the money. Armenian businessmen built probably the biggest business school in Moscow. Here, when they start building the school, people were complaining, why are you doing this? Armenian businessmen are building airplanes and creating MRIs and creating a lot of technological innovations, but for some reason, once they come here, they tell them, oh, you go sit there and you will do whatever you are told to. No, it doesn't work like that. Let's everybody take out your little heads of kingdom, little crowns, and let's all get together and work.
And figure out where you can plug in instead of...
Absolutely correct. Do what you can do best.
You have 2 children?
I have 2 sons and 1 stepdaughter.
And when you go back, what will you tell them about these last few weeks here?
I'm going to wish that they will never see anything like this.
And what can they do to prevent that?
Well, what I told you. They need to use their professionalism, they need to become professionals, they need to make sure they're paying taxes in this country one way or another.
Dr. Hagopjanian, thank you for making yourself uncomfortable. I hope more people will nudge themselves the way you have.
Thank you.